Good evening and welcome to the 15th edition of the Bronx Bomber Ball podcast. My name is Steven Erickson here with Chad Rains. And before I hand it off to Chad, I got this new Yankees hat today. It's nice. You got the New Era logo on the side, but I have this sticker on it. And we've been having this great debate here at the BBB over whether stickers on fitted hats are permissible. I've officially switched sides and decided that the sticker will be coming off permanently. Chad, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that. Obviously, me and Steve honestly don't disagree on much, but this is one thing we did disagree on. And I'm glad that he's joined the good side here with the stickers off club. Hopefully more people can join that side, kind of grow out of the stickers on hats phase. Because that's really all it is. It's just a phase. And you don't see Jeter walking around. You don't see him playing with a sticker on his hat. You didn't see that. I don't think you see him ever really, but if you did see him, I don't think he would be walking around New York City with stickers on his hat. So I love it.
That's true. Just for the record, sticker's not there. I want to be like Jeter. I don't want to be like one of those losers who has the sticker on the hat. So we're not doing that anymore. Moving forward.
If you do have stickers on your hat, you could be an outlier. When I met Steve, I was kind of judgmental of him wearing stickers on his hat, but he's a good dude despite having stickers on his hat. But like I said, he's joined the good side. So, all right, let's move on to more important things now that we've got that out of the way. Last night was Derek Jeter night. Pretty good ceremony, I thought. Jeter was with his family. He was with his wife. He was with his sister. His sister's very cute son, Jalen, who was always tipping his hat. It was awesome to see. And then his parents were there. Of course, his parents were always there. His parents were at every game, I felt like. But, yeah, before we talk about, like, the ceremony and stuff, let's talk about our favorite Jeter moments ever. Steve, you're a little bit older than me, but I think we both remember Jeter about the same amount. You can start with some of your favorite moments of Jeter.
Yeah, so I have two. My overall favorite, which I unfortunately was not old enough to remember, but the playbacks of it just give me instant goosebumps, has to be his Mr. November home run in 2001, because you have to consider the context in which that home run was hit.
Mm-hmm.
That transcends sort of all of sports when you're thinking about that. New York City had just been hit 9/11, one of the worst terrorist attack in our nation's history. The city was still recovering, and baseball was the only refuge that everyday New Yorkers could have, and the Yankees provided them with that on this tremendous World Series run, although they obviously went on to lose Game 7. But those three home games, especially his Mr. November home run in the bottom of the 10th inning off Byung-Hyun Kim, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah.
But as far as things I could remember, I'd honestly have to go towards his last game. I know that sounds corny because it's the most recent one, but just watching that, seeing how it was set up, we were on our way to, what was it, a 5-2 victory, I believe.
Yeah, in the top of the run.
David Robertson comes in, Orioles tie the game. I hated David Robertson, sort of how we feel towards Masahiro Tanaka, but we'll obviously get into that later in the podcast, his abominable performance last night. But I hated David Robertson, but now I love him because David Robertson, if it wasn't for him blowing the save, we wouldn't have gotten that amazing Derek Jeter walk-off in the bottom of the ninth to defeat the Baltimore Orioles in his last game at Yankee Stadium.
There we go. Yeah, he set the stage. For me, my all-time favorite Jeter moment is one that I remember. I remember following his kind of route to 3,000 hits. And for me, that was just an awesome day. It was, what was it, 2011, I think?
Yeah.
So I'm 19 years old, so I remember that very well. Picked up a hit in the first inning to move him to 2,999. And then that at-bat versus David Price, he worked a full count and fouled some pitches off. And then Price hung a slider, and we all know what happened next. He crushed a no-doubter home run to left field. And I just thought the story was great. The fan, Christian Lopez, gave him the ball back for free. Very nice gesture by him. Jeter definitely earned that ball. And it definitely worked out for Lopez. They gave him free baseballs, and they gave him tickets to games. I think that kind of goes to show if you ever catch a milestone ball, you might be better off just giving it back to the team because you're going to get baseballs, you're going to get memorabilia and tickets. So don't be a Zach Hampel, be a Christian Lopez.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go with you and do one that I remember, one that I don't really remember. I'll go with the flip play in Oakland. That play was absolutely incredible. The Yankees were down 2-0 in the ALDS. They were winning that game 1-0. They ended up winning the game 1-0. But in that game, Messina was throwing a gem and hit a double down the line. The ball was overthrown in right field, and Jeter, he's going to claim that he was just doing his job and that's where he was supposed to be the whole play. But I think they were talking about on MLB Network the other night, John Schmaltz and Eric Burns were both saying that he was definitely not supposed to be there. It was just a great heads-up play. And Burns was actually kind of sick about it because he was supposed to be pinch running for Jeremy Giambi, who was not the fleetest of foot. And yeah, it was a very close play. I know definitely Athletics fans will still debate that he was probably safe, but I think the umpires got it right. And the call was that it was one of the greatest plays you'll ever see by a shortstop. And I think that definitely rings true. It kind of goes to show the type of player Jeter was. He was always doing the right thing and at the right time, at the right place. So that's how I'm going to remember Jeter, as the guy that always did the spectacular.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just want to add, I mean, I've read elsewhere in various places that that's actually a play they practiced.
Yeah, that's what because Eric Chavez, who was on the Athletics at that time and then ended up being a Yankee, he said that one of the things that surprised him is that they actually did practice that play in spring training. But I think, maybe they practiced it, but it's almost more of a heads up thing because you don't, and I guess in baseball you are supposed to anticipate an overthrow. That's why you're always backing someone up. But a lot of players don't actually do that. I mean, you don't see CC backing up third base on balls hit into the right field gap. Pineda doesn't really back up where he's supposed to, but Jeter was there. And they might practice it, but at the same time, I think I still don't think that takes anything away from the play.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of those 1 in 1,000 moments where if you're doing what baseball fundamentals tell you should be doing, it ends up working out. Because most of the time you go to, back up the throw, nothing's going to happen. But this is one instance where doing that, salvage the Yankees playoff run.
Or I think it was Shane Spencer in right field. He could have just hit the cutoff man. They had 2 cutoff men, Soriano and Tino Martinez. Overthrew both of them, and Jeter was there. But, great play. You also have the dive. That was one of my favorite ones. Don't really remember it that much, but that was a great play. And I wrote an article about my favorite Jeter moments. I ranked them, including honorable mentions. So if you haven't read that, go check it out. Let's talk about the actual ceremony. Jeter got a lot of gifts from the Yankees. He got a nice ring. He got that nice blazer from Carlos Beltran. I thought that was interesting. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought the blazer from Beltran, it's weird how they timed it because it was Beltran's idea. Beltran played with Jeter. I think it was only in 2014, and that was an injury-shortened season for Beltran when he first got here. Yeah. So I thought it was cool how Derek Jeter wanted it on Mother's Day, and they specifically coordinated his day with when Beltran would be visiting with the Astros. So it just really, really good timing all around. It was nice seeing all those legends, the core 4, plus Bernie Williams, Tino Martinez, Paul O'Neill, Joe Torre, that amazing group of guys on the field. Hannah Davis is always an amazing woman to look at.
Yeah,
beautiful,
for sure.
Fantastic. Can't wait to see their child. Good for them. But something I do want to note is the absence of A-Rod there.
So when I was writing up the outline for this, I actually wrote "No A-Rod thoughts?" ? So I saw they were debating it on Pardon the Interruption, which is on ESPN. Apparently, he might have been invited to it and didn't go. And the PTI guys were saying like, "Oh, I'm sure Jeter was glad that he didn't go, and that Jeter probably only invited him as like a formality." I still think that relationship was just blown up by the media. Like, I don't think they actually hate each other the way the media makes it out to be.
I mean, what happened is we all know there was that 2001, I don't remember where it was published, but A-Rod had basically said that him and Jeter had been close prior to that. They both came into the league roughly the same time, star shortstops. A-Rod had said that Jeter wasn't necessarily the leader that everybody makes him out to be because he played on such a good team. And I guess Jeter took that to heart. They played together from 2004 to 2013, not 2014 because A-Rod was suspended due to his whole biogenesis thing. But it just really strikes me as odd that a guy who he was that close with wasn't there, especially in light of their CNBC interview, which got a little awkward due to the questions being asked. I also read, I think it was Don Levitard from ESPN described Jeter as being irate at the fact that he had to sit down next to A-Rod in the interview. I don't know if that's conjecture conjured up by a media that's looking for scandal or if that's just necessarily true. I don't know, but I don't know what to make of it, whether we're overreacting or whether there's something to it.
Right. So you said A-Rod and Jeter came up at the same time. They were friends. They also did that notorious shirtless
Yeah.
magazine photo shoot that included Nomar Garciaparra. I don't remember who the fourth guy was, but yeah, that was interesting. About the CNBC interview, I thought that people saying that Jeter was irate or that it was awkward. I thought Jeter and A-Rod, I thought they were fine together. Like I thought it didn't seem awkward. I think the interviewer tried to make it awkward by specifically asking them if they were friends now. He kept asking Jeter. They were there for a charity event. Jeter was there for turn 2, and A-Rod was there for the Boys and Girls Club. And the interviewer kept asking Jeter about the Marlins, and it was completely clear that Jeter did not want to talk about the Marlins. He even got asked about the Marlins last night on ESPN.
Yeah.
And it was a double question. He asked him about the Marlins and his kid, and Jeter completely ignored the question about the Marlins and just started talking about his kid that he was going to be having pretty soon. So,
well, he's not the front runner in that anymore. A group led by Tag Romney, the son of former presidential candidate Mitt Romney, is supposedly in the lead to buy the Marlins ahead of the Jeter Jeb Bush group.
Okay, well that might be
heading south.
Developments. Yeah, that might be a good reason why he doesn't want to talk about it. He's probably frustrated with it. But, yeah, I think Jeter and A-Rod are fine. Maybe Jeter did invite him as a formality. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he didn't invite him at all. And I don't think it's a big deal that A-Rod wasn't there. I wasn't expecting him to be there, but it wouldn't have surprised me if he was there.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so we kind of hit Derek Jeter night. Let's move on to the actual game last night.
Yes.
Talk about the doubleheader, the first game, very briefly. The Yankees had a pretty nice comeback. Severino kind of struggled. They kind of pulled him before it got too bad. Like his line didn't look awful, but he only lasted into the third inning. Girardi was kind of quick to pull him, but the Yankees came back. Headley hit a big triple. I think Castro got a big hit. I was actually at my brother's college graduation, so I didn't catch the game. So you can kind of talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the second half of the game. The first half, it was Mother's Day, so I was spending time with my lovely mother. But for the second half of the game, they were down 4-3 heading into the bottom of the seventh. No, they were up 4-3. Astros rallied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then in the seventh inning, the Yankees came back, and it was just a great inning. They had the bases loaded, 1 out, and then you had I have vague memories of this game. I was multitasking as I was watching it. I remember Chase Headley coming up, hitting a bases clearing triple, and Chris Carter actually, to the utter surprisement of me, came up and had an RBI hit of his own, which are far few and in between these days. So it was just a very productive, nice come from behind victory there. And it really made you feel good heading into Derek Jeter Day, because you thought, wow, look at the Yankees. Those first 2 games against Houston, sure, Houston's a tough opponent, but we rebounded nicely. We have a good opportunity here to split the series. And realistically, that's the best that we as fans should have really hoped for going into the series, because winning it was a tall order regardless. And then we have this beautiful ceremony for Derek Jeter. And what happens? Masahiro Tanaka is utterly horrendous.
Yeah, so
disgraceful.
Yeah, so Holiday singled to bring us within 1, and then Castro doubled to tie it. Headley hit the triple, and then Carter hit the double, and we ended up winning 11-6. Gardner hit another home run. He's been on fire. But yeah, like you said, that was a great game to get some momentum going into the nightcap. And Masahiro Tanaka was just absolutely dreadful. I haven't seen a pitching performance that bad since Jeremy Guthrie pitched against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium. I think the Yankees put up 11 runs in the first inning. That was the worst performance I've seen, and that wasn't for the Yankees. So I'm going to say that Tanaka's performance last night was the worst outing from any starting pitcher I've seen with the Yankees.
I'm trying to think of another one that I could remember. I think AJ Burnett might have had a worse one.
AJ Burnett was pretty awful, but I'm just going to say that Tanaka's was so bad just because of the moment, like the fact that it was a sellout. It was a sellout. The fans were amped. This young team came back again in the game before. Like I said, they had momentum going into the night game, and literally back-to-back home runs to start the game. And I kind of saw the Springer home run coming to lead off the game. George Springer was fouling a bunch of pitches off, kind of hanging in there. And he hit one down the right field line that would have been – he tried to pick on short porch, probably would have been a home run if he had straightened it out. And then he hit a bomb to center field in a Monument Park to start the game. And then they're showing the replay of that. And next thing you know, Josh Reddick is hitting a home run back to back. And then Tanaka loads the bases and Bregman hits a grand slam. So, I mean, literally in a matter of minutes, the Yankees were virtually out of the game.
Yeah,
they did do a great job of fighting back again. I mean, they brought the game tying run to the plate in the 9th inning. I wasn't really expecting them to come back in that game because it was a 2-out rally, but I think they did a nice job doing what they could. You know, Judge got a hit.
So, do you want to? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want to transition and talk about Masahiro Tanaka in general now?
I would love to talk about Masahiro Tanaka. So
I thought you would.
So before I begin this, I have been the biggest Masahiro Tanaka apologist. I've given him so many chances. I think last year he was absolutely amazing. I think he was definitely a Cy Young candidate. He was probably top 5 to me. He ended up finishing 7th, I think. But I thought he had a great year last year. I mean, the numbers proved it. He had like almost a sub-3 ERA. It was like 14-4. Almost pitched 200 innings. Like that's an ace. Great numbers. But and in his rookie year he was very good. But the second year and this year he has been very bad. Second year he was mediocre, and this year he's been awful. And I'm gonna break it down a little bit because people don't believe me. I was tweeting about it last night, and we got a pretty nasty email from a follower about our bashing of Tanaka, which, like I said, Tanaka's been great, but not this year. This year he has been awful. So obviously he's 5-2 now. That was his second loss last night. He's managed to get 5 wins, which is good. 5-2 with a 5.80 ERA, and he's allowed 10 home runs, including 4 last night. 10 home runs, that's 3rd most in the American League behind Mike Fiers and I think Ricky Nolasco of the Angels. Another thing that I had to say about Tanaka is he's pretty much had 2 good starts. They came on April 19th against the Chicago White Sox. He went 7 innings, allowed 1 earned run, 6 hits, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. But I must say the White Sox are not a good team. They don't have a good offense. So, like, I mean, I'm good for him. He shut down a major league starting lineup, but he should do that against them. And then obviously he had the complete game shutout against the Red Sox, which was very good. Only allowed 3 hits, no walks, no runs, and struck out 3 batters. But he only struck out 3 batters in 9 innings, and that's going to lead into my next point. Ever since he's come into the major leagues, he's been missing less bats, and as a result, he's been allowing more home runs. So in 2014, he struck out 9.31 batters per 9 innings. 2015, that went down to 8.12. Last year, only 7.44, and this year he's only striking out exactly 7 batters per 9 innings. That is a problem. If you're an ace, you need to be missing bats. You can't be allowing home runs. Kershaw's putting up double-digit strikeout numbers every night. Chris Sale's doing it. Max Scherzer's doing it. Bumgarner before he got hurt. Those are legitimate aces. Tanaka is not an ace. I'll let you talk in just a second. I'm almost done. Opposing hitters are hitting 291 against him. Only 6 pitchers are worse than that, and one of them is Phil Hughes. That's awful. His whip is 1.44, which is 38th out of 49 qualified American League pitchers. That's pretty bad. You don't see aces in the bottom half, not even bottom half, bottom third of all starting pitchers in the American League. And the biggest glaring problem for me is that he's allowed so many runs in the first inning. In half of his starts, he's allowed a first inning run. Obviously, opening day, he allowed 3 earned runs in the first inning. In his third start, he allowed 2. And then last night, he allowed 6. So first innings have been a problem for him. He's not getting off on the right foot, and it kind of sets the tone for the rest of his starts, which is not good. He's been very bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to follow that up, but I'll try. So basically, when it comes to Tanaka, I wrote an article fairly recently. It was about a month ago, and I had a more pessimistic view of the team overall and not just Tanaka, where it was titled 2017 should be Masahiro Tanaka's last season in pinstripes. I brought it back last night, put it up, tweeted it just to, let it be known that I have felt this way about Tanaka for a while. Unlike my counterpart over here, I have not been a Masahiro Tanaka apologist. I've been quite down on him since his second year in the majors. First year in the majors before he got injured, he was fantastic. But right. I'm starting to think that might have been more so the result of the league not being familiar with him rather than his actual talent, as we've seen with many Japanese pitchers who have come over and appeared brilliant at first and then just become very mediocre. Daisuke Matsuzaka is another example of that. And I'm not comparing Tanaka to him in that sense, because Daisuke got very bad towards the end of his career. I still think Tanaka could be a competent major league pitcher, perhaps a middle of the rotation pitcher, but I do not think that Masahiro Tanaka is an ace, and he's being paid like one. That is extremely problematic for this team moving forward, especially if he does not opt out.
I was going to say, unfortunately, he is paid to be that ace, which always was a question to me, because Cashman kind of insisted that he was a 2 to 3 starter, but he's paying him that ace money, which never made any sense to me. Yeah. That's one of Cashman's signings that I do question.
And that offseason, let us not forget that Max Scherzer was also a free agent.
Right.
Yes, the Nationals threw an insane amount of money at him, but if you're already giving that much money to a number 2 or 3 starter, you might as well throw an extra $50 million in there and get yourself a legitimate ace. I think the reason the Yankees went for Tanaka is because of his marketability. As someone who went to Yankee Stadium and saw Hideki Matsui play and the following that Hideki Matsui had, even to a lesser extent Ichiro, but definitely Matsui, it's a significant following. And then you have the Japanese fans back in Japan who are paying attention to the Yankees, and that's more revenue that's coming in. And I believe the Yankees thought that Tanaka would provide them with this same burst of economic viability in Japan, like bring them back onto the map there and just make them more revenue, which in theory it's a good business move, but for the team, I would argue it hasn't really been a good signing. Tanaka, he hasn't been outright terrible until this season, but if he keeps playing like this, when do we sound the alarm? It's already May.
Yeah, and you said the thing about Japanese players being very popular in the Bronx. Hideki Matsui was there last night, and they actually said it on ESPN. Every time he comes back to one of these things, it seems like he gets the loudest ovation out of anybody. And yeah, so he's just very popular. And to your point about major league hitters kind of figuring to knock out, I think that kind of factors into his strikeouts per 9 going down, is that hitters are figuring him out. And as a result, they're not missing his slider. They're jumping on him early and not striking out. And that's a big problem. I think if you want to be an ace, you have to be able to miss bats. You have to be able to get the big strikeout. And with his strikeout numbers going down, that's kind of concerning to me. I mean, it is May. He could go on another string of 8 good starts and be back to normal. But so far this year, I don't know how many quality starts he's had, but to me, he's had 2 good starts out of 8, and that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I don't think his 5-2 record is an accurate reflection of how he performed thus far.
Yeah, I mean, CC Sabathia has a 5.77 ERA, and Tanaka's is 5.80. So that kind of is the problem in itself.
I guess, piggybacking off of Tanaka, though, that brings us to a question about the rotation as a whole, which looked very good during April and our winning streak. But since the last turn in the rotation, our guys have really struggled. Is it a matter of them coming back down to earth, or are they just going through a little bit of a speed bump in a long season?
Right. To me, I mean, I kind of try to remain as optimistic as I can, and I really do think that Severino is figuring it out. I think he's kind of coming into his own. People wrote him off last year, and he was awful last year. But I think this year he's been very good. He had a tough start on Sunday, but I don't have any complaints about him. I think he's going to continue learning. This is a big season for him. It's another shot at him to earn his spot in the rotation. I think he's doing that. Pineda is always going to be inconsistent, but for me, for the most part, he's been pretty good. And then obviously you have CC, who started very good. He was our best pitcher for about 3 outings, and then small sample size kind of caught up to him. And I think now he's showing who he actually is, which is going to be a problem if he keeps pitching like that. Because unlike Tanaka, I am concerned right now about CC. I think in the long run, Tanaka can figure it out. He's shown that he can be a top line pitcher. I'm not sure CC can figure it out going forward. We might have to look at other options.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go off of what you were saying. You didn't mention Montgomery, but I'll throw him in there. Yeah, and say that along with Severino, they've both been, even though Severino's had a bit more downs than Montgomery really hasn't had a bad start since he was called up.
Right.
Absolutely awful.
I agree.
So, and I'm willing to give the two of them a lot of wiggle room. Obviously, they're both youngsters, and they're going to have to figure it out in the majors. Even though we're competing, we weren't supposed to compete this year. This is supposed to be a team in transition, so we have to take that into consideration. So I'm fine with the two of them if they're going through their occasional struggles. Michael Pineda, can't believe it, but he's actually been our best starter this season.
Yeah. for sure.
And even if that continues, I would not re-sign him at the end of the season. He needs to leave.
Yeah, because
I could see him going to the National League and becoming an ace pitcher. And very honest.
yeah, I mean, the better he pitches, the more money he's going to get. We've seen starting pitching go for just, insane numbers. I mean, Nova got a 3-year deal for, I think, $27 million. That was unheard of. And now look at him in the National League. He was I think he was the National League Pitcher of the Month.
He was.
But yeah, for Montgomery, he's 2-2 with a 4.19 ERA, and that's perfectly fine by me. He's the 5th starter in the rotation. I think a guy who has a low 4 ERA as a 5th starter is incredible. I think the reason Severino has been so frustrating is because we do expect him to be the top guy, but he's not there yet. And I'm content with his numbers right now. Hopefully he can keep getting better.
I do think that we're going to have to start considering other options than CC though, because how much longer can we keep running him out there? I recently wrote a piece on, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This obviously wouldn't materialize for a couple of months, but I wrote a piece on potentially envisioning a trade for Garrett Cole. Not saying that the Yankees would do this because we have to see where they are come July. If they're still sitting atop the division, you could argue that they're one player away from being serious championship contenders. Yeah. And Brian Cashman has consistently held that one player away standard as
revealing top prospects.
Yeah, as what he would need to deal top prospects and potentially go out and get a Garrett Cole. That's the reason he didn't go for Chris Sale this offseason, because he thought the team would be a team in transition and Sale wouldn't necessarily, be that final piece that would get us to the promised land.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with that.
Even if the Yankees don't do that, we also have to think that they could at least go out and get some sort of mid-level starting pitcher. I don't really know who would be on the market right now. I think it's a little too early to start speculating on that.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts, or do you think they'll try and solve this internally with perhaps a Chad Green, Luis Sessa, see what sticks?
Yeah, realistically, I think we are going to solve it internally with either a Chance Adams, Chad Green, Sessa. But on the trade market, there are going to be some options out there. I know Lance Lynn from the Cardinals could possibly be on the market if the Cardinals continue to struggle. Tyler Chatwood from the Rockies, to name a few. There's going to be some solid midline starters on the trade market for sure. And then obviously I think Garrett Cole is going to be on the market if the Pirates continue to struggle like they have. And he's going to come at a high price, as he should. He's got a track record of being a strong 2 and borderline A starter. He's shown flashes of it. He's made a couple All-Star appearances. And obviously the Yankees drafted him in the first round of the 2008 draft, and so they have a history with him. He's pretty famous for holding up a sign at a Yankee game that said something like "Yankee fan now, Yankee fan forever" when he was a kid. And so the Yankees do have ties with him, and that's going to be interesting if he actually does ultimately end up becoming a New York Yankee. We're running low on a little bit of time here. If you have anything.
I was just going to say that, again, my piece was highly speculative, but if the Yankees are, still sitting atop the division, then I think it's something that we should realistically consider. But I believe when you're looking at it pragmatically, we're probably going to solve it internally.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. I guess we'll get to – we got 2 questions this week. It was a little bit less than normal, but the first one is – completely hypothetical, but I do kind of want to talk about it. It's kind of funny. Bottom 9, bases loaded, 2 outs. Who are you taking, Stephen Drew or Chris Carter? That's from our writer, Andrew Netalizio.
I'm taking Stephen Drew right there, honestly. He had a series of big hits for us, believe it or not. I'll never forget that grand slam he hit against the Orioles.
Yeah.
In yards. I think it was a pinch hit grand slam, actually.
I think it was.
It came in April of 2015. Huge hit. I couldn't believe it. I was driving home, and I had the radio on listening to John Sterling in the car. I heard Stephen Drew hit a pinch hit grand slam. I couldn't believe it. I was in shock.
Yeah,
never forget that.
And Stephen Drew's actually going to put the ball in play. I'm hard on you if you're hitting 200. That's awful. But if you're putting it in play, you're making something happen. A fielder can make an error. Ball could kick by a fielder. Things happen when you put it in play. I don't think Chris Carter would put it in play in that situation. I think he would swing at a curveball that goes 57 feet, kind of like he did in Boston. I think he swung at a curveball that was like 10 feet short of the mound or of home plate in one game. But yeah, I'm definitely taking Stephen Drew. He had a string of hot games. I actually tweeted, I remember his 2000 2015 maybe, I tweeted that he was Steven Druth, and Michael K and Michael K mentioned that on the air. So that was one of my proudest moments. One more question. This one's a good one. It's from Alex Lighthall. Who are some prospects / major league players that are likely getting traded before the deadline? I'm assuming he's talking about Yankee players. As far as prospects, I think the untouchable ones are Gleyber Torres, Aaron Judge, and Gary Sanchez. Gary Sanchez isn't technically a prospect, but I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the Yankees really believe in those three to kind of lead the new core of players. I'm not going to say the next core four, but the new kind of group of young players. But I do think, Frazier is going to be interesting if they go after Garrett Cole. I can't see them getting Garrett Cole without trading Clint Frazier. Justice Sheffield's another left-handed arm that they could look to trade. And then they could trade Michael Pineda if they start falling out of the race. Obviously, if they stay in first place, they're not going to trade Pineda.
Yeah, I think this is all contingent on where the Yankees are going to be when the trade deadline approaches. Also, another player I'd like to mention is Brett Gardner. We obviously right now have an influx of outfield talent, which, don't get me wrong, it's a good problem to have, but is it really? Because we have Brett Gardner, Jacoby Ellsbury, Aaron Judge, and Aaron Hicks, all four of which are performing extremely well to start the season. Obviously, some more than others. The three that stand out are Judge, Hicks, and Gardner as of late. Those 7 home runs in, 15 games?
Yeah, he's the last 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
That's insane. And Ellsbury has more so performed as we're paying him to perform, which is nice. And obviously, it's a temporary solution, which is something I proposed, and Joe Girardi has actually started doing it. Maybe he read the tweet, was that we should have Holiday play a lot more first base, Holiday or Romine, so then we could stick one of the outfielders into the DH role, so we'll constantly have the hot bat in the lineup, and we won't be stuck watching Chris Carter play.
Yeah, and speaking of Chris Carter, before we head out, you mentioned to me that Tyler Austin tweeted today that he faced live pitching for the first time. I think that's a great sign if we can get him back. He's a first baseman, left fielder, right fielder. Technically, he can play a little bit of third base. I think Girardi would be hesitant to put him at third in pinstripes at the major league level. But I hope he hurries back, gets to a rehab assignment, plays in the minor leagues, plays well in the minor leagues, and then hopefully we can just cut ties with Chris Carter.
Yeah, I was wondering when the Yankees were on that win streak, I was like, I always have a player that I hate that I could use as a scapegoat, whether it be, going back all the way to Sergio Mitre, Stephen Drew, Garrett Jones. There's always that one player who you could just pick on. And I didn't have one because we didn't really see that much of Chris Carter. But now it's indisputably Chris Carter. He's the player that everyone hates because he's terrible.
Yeah, he has been true to form. He struck out about 40% of the time, but he's not hitting home runs.
There's no home runs.
Yeah, there you go. No home runs. And that's a problem.
If he hit a couple of home runs, it would be sort of tolerable if he was still on pace like the National League home run hitter that he was. And you'd think that some consistent playing time, if he's coming off the bench like he was backing up Bird, it would make sense that he couldn't really get into the rhythm. But he's been getting consistent playing time, and he just has been just as awful, if not worse.
Yeah, I think he has as many triples as he has home runs. So that kind of says a lot about his season. He's off to a terrible start.
Yeah,
but I think we pretty much hit everything today. We're like I said, I always say it, but we're gonna try to do these more consistently. It's kind of tough, but I think hopefully as the summer goes on, we'll have a little bit more free time, be able to knock these podcasts out more often.
Yeah, we'll try and get them more frequently, maybe another medium in the near future, so stay tuned on that.
Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for the questions, and as always, go Yankees.
Go Yankees, and no stickers on hats anymore.
Love to see it.
Good night.
All right, bye.